Asaf Nadler, co-founder of Addressable. Thanks for being on the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Peter.
Yeah. I want to begin with going back to your distant past. I understand you served in the IDF. Is that correct?
Yes.
I'm really curious. I met with John Cole, who also served in the IDF, and he's a co-founder of Hyperlane. And we had a really fascinating conversation around, what he learned in the IDF that helped him become an entrepreneur. And I want to point the same question to you. Like, what did you learn, and how has that helped you with your entrepreneurial journey at Addressable?
That's a fantastic question. So to give the full background, in Israel, everybody goes to the military, to the IDF. It's mandatory. And the mandatory service is around 3 years. I've spent 10 in the military. And if I had to kind of name two takeaways that I think served me as an entrepreneur, one of them is the network. I was very, very lucky to meet other young people like me who were very, very fascinated about tech. So throughout my 10 years of military service, I did tech in military intelligence. I met other people who were very, very tech savvy and talented. A lot of them today are other entrepreneurs. So the networking was definitely something that contributed a lot to that. And another part that I guess it's not just about the IDF, but my kind of character as well. I always think that the things that I'm not doing are the most interesting. And whereas in the industry, you're kind of falling into specific frameworks and it's very difficult to break them. Being young in the military, it kind of gave me the opportunities to shift between different fields of tech, ranging from cybersecurity to security research to data sciences to AI and to a lot of that. So I got to experience with so many different things over the course of 10 years. So I think that kind of also prepared me for being an entrepreneur and dealing with a lot of changes and a lot of the need to learn new tech and solve new problems.
And I find that fascinating because it's, for most of us that have been in tech, we're confined really to an office in front of our computers. But for those that have kind of done real world things, where your life is on the line, it gives you a different perspective. And I think, and also priorities, what's more important than another thing. And it certainly shows in some of the entrepreneurs that I've worked with that have served in the military. Like, they just approach business differently.
Absolutely. I definitely relate to that. I think that within the industry, a lot of the KPI of software is about revenue or what are users getting as a form of that. But for a lot of entrepreneurs that started their tech career in the military, it starts with serving a higher purpose for the country. You see how systems of your work are saving lives, right? Doing great things. And even when you leave the military to the industry, you want to do something that has a purpose, something that you fully believe in. So this is definitely something that sticks with a lot of former IDF that go to be entrepreneurs later on.
Um, I want to switch topics to Addressable, where you're a co-founder, but I want to begin with the problem. Um, I think if I could just lay out the landscape in crypto or Web3 marketing, it's I think the marketing FI stack is quite new, and I think it's maturing. And I'm really, really encouraged by seeing more and more projects and companies building marketing stack services and offerings and to serve Web3 marketers. I'm very encouraged by that. But let's begin with the problem. Like, what problem do you see? Like, I guess what's wrong with Web3 marketing? And then maybe we can segue into addressable.
That's a great question. It starts with a problem, but it actually falls into an opportunity. When we started our ideation uh, for Addressable, we met many blockchain companies. We fell in love with the blockchain space, and I can get into that why later. Um, we asked many companies, what are the biggest problems that you're facing that you think data can be helpful with? And a lot of them were specifically mentioning user acquisition. We're working to get more users. And this current bear market, it sounds a bit weird. Cutting down the marketing situation is not very good. But the time that I'm referring to was after 2021, blockchain companies, to those who weren't yet in the industry, raised more capital than cybersecurity companies, than digital health companies, than education tech. They raised so much money. And if you were to be asking them, what are they planning to do with this money? They would be saying, we're looking to onboard more users. We're looking to do user acquisition. Well, great. I mean, that's what a lot of companies that raise money are planning to do. Why aren't you running the existing playbooks? And this is where the problem is. The problem is anonymity. So inherently, users on the blockchain are anonymous. And this kind of mechanism that's inherent by design in the blockchain is also propagating into the culture. So even the people that are buying from you are not leaving you their email, they're not leaving you their mobile. And for well-experienced marketers that are used to collecting the data, who visited my website, who bought something, who learning from that about how to grow, being blind to that was a huge problem. A lot of them were launching NFT collections and launching products and launching tokens, but not really being able to learn about what was working. And the biggest problem that follows that is, how do we even reach users that we care about? Because in crypto, when you think about the products, a very small percentage of that are commodities that any user would see, understand, and buy, like click on Instagram and say, I want that. Most of the products are very complicated and are a good fit only for crypto native people. But how do you know who's crypto native? How do you even find these users? That was the biggest problem, finding the relevant users that are behind anonymity. And for the team that we were at the time, we all came from a military intelligence background. So for us, putting together the signal about wallet owners on the blockchain, who they are, what do they care about, what are their interests, and how to find and target them, it seemed like a problem that we saw many times before in the 10 or 15 years that preceded the emergence of Addressable. So it really seemed like there was a very good opportunity to help this space grow rapidly. And if I'm slightly shifting from the problem into the opportunity, it seems like Web3 marketing is at a disadvantage with everybody being anonymous. But as a matter of fact, in Web2, marketers are pretty much becoming blind to anything that's taking place outside their platform. Sure, if the user is buying from you, they will give you the email, they will give you the mobile number, and you can start collecting the data. But anywhere else, Google is deprecating third-party cookies. Apple is no longer giving you mobile attribution data. So you don't know what's happening anywhere else. You have no idea. But the blockchain is all open. You can see all the transactions all the time. So as a marketer, even though the users that are coming to you are anonymous, you can anonymously still see the trends across the industry. Is my competitor's user drifting away? Is somebody making money? Is there good business in NFT? What is currently happening and where does the opportunity lies? And trying to frame all of that together, we were convinced at that point in time that if we'll put the data into a single source of truth and reach it to help companies and marketers better understand their audiences and reach out to them, this industry can grow properly. And that's the story that led us to Addressable.
You know, I'm glad that you brought up kind of the Web 2 experience because, you know, having come from the Web 2 world, like I loved knowing as much as I could about my customers in my funnel and the characteristics of each stage of the funnel. Like one of my favorite features back in the Web 2 space was progressive profiling, you know, where initially I'll ask you for your first name, last name, and email. And then the next time we encounter you, you know, then I'm like, I already know your first name and last name and email. Let me just ask you your phone number. So it's like one field. Next after that is like, let me ask you one question. And then I start forming this really rich information like database of like all of my encounters. Um, and I love knowing that. But you're right, in the blockchain space, that's like a almost like a against the ethos of of privacy. But as a marketer, it's like I need that. I feel like I need that. And one of the frustrating things as a marketer in Web3, it's like there's not a lot I can know. But it sounds like Addressable you've kind of reframed that in the Web 2 space, it's becoming more and more private. But in Web 3, everything's on the blockchain. And so maybe we can actually know as much or even more now. Am I characterizing that correctly?
It's exactly that. It's exactly that. And funnily, for someone who came from Web 2, you see the potential of that. But I think at the given point in time, there are still marketers that in theory understands the benefit of that, but had not kind of fully understood how meaningful it is to rely on all this data. So it's still kind of a gradual process to get people in the blockchain space to um, adopt this new opportunity that is featured within this industry.
Yeah, I think this idea of attribution is so hard. Um, and I am really encouraged by everything that you've shared about addressable. Let's talk about how addressable um actually let me back up. You know, attribution and defining the stages of the funnel is so hard in Web3 because I feel like um a lot of Web3 projects or crypto projects right now are really at the kind of the awareness stage, because they're not quite sure what a conversion event is. And for some projects, one conversion event might be, you're a developer, join my program and become a developer on my blockchain. So that's kind of one conversion event. But for some projects that they don't necessarily have mainnet yet or even testnet, but they have a token. And so the conversion event there might be buy my token. And so I think projects, across the Web3 space kind of you've got developers, which are users. You've got token holders, which are users. If you have applications on a layer one, you've got users of that application. So I guess what am I asking? I'm asking, I guess two things. When you speak with clients or potential clients, like how do you help them define their funnel? And how does addressable kind of help them at all stages of the funnel when it comes to attribution?
It's a fantastic question. So initially, we were very romantic about the tech opportunity of attribution in Web3. So my background is coming from tech, not from marketing. In seeing for the first time a tech that is fully programmable, in which attribution can be fully on the blockchain, we can use the wallet as kind of this persistent identifier across everything. We can tie everything together from the revenue that is being made within the conversion all the way to the source that drove this conversion. This was very appealing. But what I think we saw working with more and more clients over time is exactly what you mentioned earlier. A lot of them are not yet at the monetization phase. They're not yet at the conversion stage. They're somewhat ranging between awareness and engagement. That is where a lot of the industry lies. Um, Initially, when we thought we'll see more conversion events, we built a lot of the attribution part, which was very, very customizable. Like you said it, there was no one size fits all. It seemed at the time like if we would tap into the Wallet Connect's logins and then find a conversion on the website, that would work. But then a lot of the conversion events took place not necessarily on the website, some of them with downloading the mobile app, like in wallets, some of them on a centralized exchange where the wallet is being exchanged. It became pretty much a very customizable work. And with that, the market was also shown to be very, very fragmented. There was a very small portion of the market which actually had conversion. this kind of led me to think over the past few months, what is the common denominator that that on a Pareto rule, 80% of projects are facing, and yet very, very easily, like within 1 hour of working together, we can already show them a metric or something to help them understand how well things are going. And because a lot of the projects are still at the awareness or engagement phase, I had to look for something at the top of the funnel. And I think at the top of the funnel, the biggest question which we saw emerging from users is, are we getting quality traffic? We're using influencers, we're using all sorts of ads, we're using all sorts of traffic and PR and affiliates, but we're not sure if the traffic is bots. We're not sure if the traffic is crypto native and might be just somebody putting a banner on some website that is unrelated. We're not sure if we're getting the quality traffic. And this seemed to be something that is fitting 80% of the market, because a lot of them are in the awareness and engagement phase. And more than 80% of the market is clearly on web. On mobile, there's so many restrictions. Not a lot of them went into Telegram mini apps. So a lot of that is in web, a lot of that is awareness and engagement. And this is where we came up with the notion of cost per wallet, which is looking at traffic that is headed to your website. How much of that traffic actually has a wallet installed as a browser extension on the browser? If a website visitor has a wallet installed on their browser, it's unlikely to be a bot. These are typically using headless browsers. They don't install MetaMask as an extension in an attempt to look like Chrome. And on the other end, it's unlikely to be a normie that doesn't understand crypto. These people would just not install a wallet. So we found this indicator to be very, very powerful, very simple. And by powerful, what I mean is that we looked at data from 500,000 converted users, 100 advertisers, 250 campaigns. While intuitively, it's a powerful indicator, what we saw based on the numbers that a user that has a wallet installed is 7 times more likely to convert and 18 times more likely to sign up. So it's that powerful. And on the other end, it's a very simple metric that 80 to 90% of the projects that actually has a website and want to understand if an influencer or an ad system or anything is directing quality traffic, they can actually measure that. What is the cost that it takes me to bring someone with the wallet to my website? So if I'm trying to kind of capture everything together, attribution is definitely a problem. And we've not yet seen a solution that is a one-size-fits-all and doesn't require kind of this customization. And we have this customization, we have the ability to go full path on that. But altogether, what we see is that it's also important to find simple solutions, fast value, to kind of provide the 80-20. And this is exactly cost per wallet, what we're trying to do at the top of the funnel.
Now, cost per wallet is a metric. That's a metric that I believe you guys coined. And whenever you create a new metric like that, there needs to be a lot of education. It's almost like a new category. Like being the first in the category is you're almost guaranteed to be like the winner. And probably the same thing when you come up with a new metric, and then everyone starts to learn about this metric, and then starts to measure their activities with this metric. And the creator of this metric all of a sudden kind of generates a lot of kind of thought leadership. Excuse me. Tell us about, I guess, if I were how does this metric, what does this metric mean to various kind of user audiences? Like, say you're a layer one and you're trying to get developers versus a layer one without developers, but you have a token. My guess is those are probably two pretty large user segments that Addressable sees. How does this metric translate for each for those?
Perfect. So in the layer one, there's a marketing team that is responsible for demand generation. They're responsible for um, the marketing budget and spending that to both generate creative ideas on how to leverage attention and spreading them across different resources to track users. It might be influencers, it might be events, it might be PR, it might be advertisement. The decision they ultimately need to make is which of these sources are driving quality revenue we want to invest more in, and which of these sources aren't performing as well as we expected. Cost per wallet is designed to evaluate exactly that. For every source, what is the cost? How much am I paying to get one wallet owner visiting my website? It might be a developer, it might be a trader, it might be an investor, but it's definitely someone who's not a bot, native to the space. And that's what the single very general metric is measuring per source. Um, and the way to measure that is you would typically um, install a system that tracks that. Addressable natively support that, but I definitely encourage um, every paid media system to track that as well, and it can be definitely independent. And what any of these systems will do is as soon as you tap in what's the budget that you invested for a specific source, it will identify any website traffic that is coming from this source and start counting the amount of wallet visitors that made it to the website. And ultimately from there, it's just a division. How many wallets did you get divided by the budget? And then you can realize that it take you $1 to get a wallet owner visiting, $5, $10. If it's much more than that, what you'd find out is that some channels are not as effective. And it might be a problem with the creative that's not attracting quality traffic. It might be a problem with the source. But what you get as a result is that you have actually a quantitative metric, which is comparable. You can compare that with other marketers, with other teams. You can communicate that to leadership. What does it actually take us to get a user coming on the website? User might buy, they might convert, they might sign up for the waitlist, they might bounce. But at least at the top of the funnel, there's an understanding of what's it take to bring a real native crypto user to my website for whatever follows up next.
I think that's fascinating, and for the listeners, the majority of the listeners are builders and they are marketers, and learning more about the kind of the marketing fi, I believe that's the category that's kind of developing, is really fascinating because there really isn't a lot out there right now. And addressable being one of the key leaders is important to, for people to marketers that are in the crypto space need to know about. If you're speaking directly to all of these marketers that, work at various different projects, I guess what would you want them to remember from this podcast, and maybe try to sell them on addressable?
I think that marketers in this space are incredibly talented, and I think they're facing a big challenge. And that challenge has to do a lot with communicating to founders in the space that are typically very much tech driven. They're not coming from marketing background. Very small amount of them are coming from go to market positions. Marketers are struggling with communicating um, the activities with the app. So they're asking for budgets. They're asking to grow their team. They're asking for additional resources, sometimes with the inability to explain what will we get as a return from that. And on a lot of occasions, this is understandable because marketing has a lot of intangibles. How do you quantify brand? How do you quantify long-term demand? But on a lot of short-term actions, unless you quantify, what you face is the inability to grow your team because it's unclear how to associate activities with outputs. And on the longer term, when the market hits a very, very rough spot, you want to showcase for what you're actually delivering. And that's a pain within the industry. I'm saying something that is extremely painful. But in this industry, when it's down, marketers are a lot of time the first to be thrown overboard. It's the founders are looking. It's really sad to say that. It might be like a hot take from this recording. But founders are looking at the devs and they're saying these are the people that are delivering features. They're looking at the BD. These are the people that are delivering sales or partnerships. They're looking at product. These are the people that are delivering the plans and the vision. And they're looking at the marketers. What are we getting there? And it's horrible that this is not quantifiable. It's because I see a lot of the champions of the organization, but unless they kind of transform a lot of their value that they're bringing into something that is quantitative, into users, into attention, into something that can actually be measured, that a founder would actually need to think. If I'm cutting the budget here, if I'm reducing the size of the team, I would be losing. I would be losing users. I would be losing attention. I would be losing things that will take more time to recover. They would think twice about that. And on the other way around, as you're looking to grow, marketers can actually communicate. If we'll put more budget on this specific campaigns, it has proven that it takes the $5 cost per wallet to drive a user to the website. This is what it costs. So $1,000 would get us 200 wallets coming.
The homepage of the addressable site. I'm going to read the headline and subheadline. Would love your comments on it. The Web3 growth platform. Drive growth through super targeted user acquisition using on-chain data and AI. So 2 questions. Who are you speaking to directly, and what is it that you want them to do?
It's a fantastic question. That's a tagline that back and forth we're always thinking about how to play with that. But we're always speaking to two different teams. One of them is the marketers. That's the users of the systems. These are the people that would be using the product on the day-to-day with typically with the goal of attracting users very effectively. It's a numbers game. It's performance marketing. They want to put their budget and get the best results for that. And the second thing is they want to do it with ease. Marketers in this space are so overwhelmed with doing so many tasks in small teams. They're doing the PR, they're doing the social, they're doing the community management. They're sometimes even doing the listings on Exchange. They want a tool that they can trust and can help them with that. And the second type or the second team that we're speaking to are the decision makers, or typically, if the team is big, it's a CMO, but in a lot of cases in crypto, it's still founders that would be evaluating that. They will not be the ones using the product, but they're the ones that need to approve it. So what they'll be typically looking at is, does this look like a team we can trust? Does this look like something that we'd be working with? Our marketers are definitely asking for that, but is this something that we can rely on? So the one voice that we're trying to funnel through, whether it's successful or not, is trying to hit on both of these.
Now, I believe this is all publicly available information, so forgive me if I'm talking out of turn, but I believe on the site it says Immutable and Polygon are customers. I'm curious about the Immutable case because they are a general purpose layer 1, but very game focused. And so there you've got multiple levels of users. You've got the studios that are building games on Immutable. And then these games also have players. And so having that as a backdrop, I'm curious how Immutable might be using Addressable to kind of learn more about all the levels of users they have. And I think that's probably one of the more complicated use cases, different levels of users.
It definitely is, and I'm being careful of words and how to kind of choose what's in the public domain. What we have in the public domains is we supported Immutable with promoting several of their major games, not the layer one, not Immutable X. In some of these games include Metalcore, Guild of Guardians, and Gods Unchained, the trading card games. And in all of these cases, what they were looking to find is Web3 gamers, which are incredibly difficult to find because typically classic gamers can advertise to them on Steam, on gaming platforms, you would find them. But in the Web3 gaming scene, there is a combination between people who don't have few interest in gaming, but on the other hand, they're also native enough to understand how to connect their wallet the way to play a game, or what is the values of assets that I'm collecting on chain. Because at least at a time, you needed to be very, very technical to play this game. So that is the case. Immutable were actually one of our first clients. They went on a Blockworks article that was featuring us, saying how well it helped them with acquiring Web3 gamers through Twitter. This is what we did together. That is on.
I think that's fascinating for a couple of reasons. Immutable is a great project, but the fact that they use Twitter ads, which not a lot of blockchain projects are doing any paid campaigns these days, but of those that are doing paid campaigns, it's probably not on Twitter because Twitter doesn't often allow, crypto specific language. And so seeing attribution from like a paid campaign to the click to landing on a page and then converting at that stage, that's like a dream come true for most marketers. Like just to have that much level of information is amazing. And that's great that, Addressable was able to help Immutable with some of that. Um, the Tell us about the features, specific features of Addressable that you're finding kind of really resonates with marketers.
So if I'm going from the starting overview of what the addressable platform is looking like, it supports a single process, which is build the audience that you want to target. Will give you a report about this audience, their behavior, so you can understand and plan your campaign. And that would help you launch a targeted ads campaign on Twitter or Reddit or banner ads on certain websites to target these users. And we'll provide you with a dashboard that showcases what are the results that you're getting, as well as us collecting the data to optimize the entire campaign end to end. That's the addressable platform on the end to end. If I'm basing what do we see that's very helpful for users based on conversations that we're having with them, I think the first point has to do with we know who the audience is, but the way that we're thinking about the audience is in on-chain terms. So it's users that has money, that are invested in a specific DeFi protocol, that bought something from our competition, but we have no idea who they are. We have no idea how to get to them. So this aha moment when they can feed in the data on our system and get a report that is saying, this is your audience, this is where they're coming from across the globe, these are the channels on which we've seen them converting the distribution. This is who they're following on social media. This is the topics that they like to discuss on social media. These are the different tokens that they're owning. There's this feeling of this fits some of what I was thinking, but there's also somewhat of, I'm not sure if I'm choosing the correct word, but some form of shame of, I'm a marketer. I know that I should be using data to plan ahead, but now I'm seeing that, and I'm feeling a bit ashamed that I've never used the tool to strategize my campaign. So I'm pitching the founders. I'm trying to harness everybody for a huge movement, but I never really kind of use data to justify or to argue why it makes sense to target the specific users that I'm offering. So this is definitely something that we're seeing very, very, very helpful. Another part that we're seeing very, very helpful is, as you said it earlier, a lot of projects aren't very much native to ads. It used to be that Twitter and other platforms were not very funding of crypto projects. And I want to believe that we have a hand in changing that. We're working very closely with the Twitter team. We have a very, very powerful partnerships with them. And there was a lot of change in Twitter policy towards crypto advertisers. A lot of that is much more relaxed than it used to be in the past. Obviously, you cannot promote directly buy my token, but a lot of things that we're speaking about, the tech, education, about resources are definitely allowed now. And we're seeing more and more projects opening up to that. And still, there's lots of projects that haven't ran ads in the past. There's a lack of marketing talent that has experience with running ads. So I think another feature is getting a project that is saying, I want to get users, I have a dedicated budget to that, but I've never done that. And I'm a bit scared of that. It's a budget. I managed to convince the founders, but I'm not really sure how to go through that. Having a product that is simplifying this process and showing you the results, on the one hand, making it easy, but on the other hand, making you feel that you're in control. I think this is something that is incredibly meaningful. And the last part is the use of AI to collect all of the data, show the results and what's working, and get you instant insights on what's working. So when the CEO is or the founder is capturing you in the hole or texting you on Slack, like, what's happening with the campaign that we're doing off? Like, every marketer knows this sweating moment when you're, what's happening with that? You're a single button away from generating all the insights and telling the founders. Our optimization just cut the cost by half. It used to take 8 cents for us to get an engagement on Twitter. It's now 4 cents. This is working excellently. Campaign in the Ukraine is actually working out the best, so we might want to double down on that. And in Southeast Asia, our assumptions weren't necessarily correct. And you remember that we talked about this creative and we had like the pink version versus the green one. And we thought that the pink one was going to work more. It's 20% better. Like, one click, you have all of that showing. So this generates exactly what we want to have. We want to have the marketers, the champion of the organization.
Just for the record, I am not a customer of Addressable, but everything you've described is exactly like, if I had that available to me, that would answer and help me so much in my career. Because it's really boils down to fundamentals. It's like, what is it? What is the messaging I'm going out with? First of all, who is my audience? What's the message, the positioning and the messaging I'm going out with? How do I reach my audience? And what's the performance of the positioning and messaging to my audiences based on these channels? It's like, just the fundamental questions are so hard to answer in crypto. And if Addressable can help me answer all of that, I mean, that's a huge, huge value add. And I'm a customer right away. I mean, I would be. And I think, to your point around the idea of shame, I think a lot of it, at least for me, is I don't think a lot of crypto marketers know that there's even a software stack that could help them answer these questions. And so I think I think at least from in the circles that I'm in, I think it's kind of an awareness issue that they just don't know it's even available. Um, and to even underscore another point is like, in the Web 2 space, my marketing budget for paid ads was massive. But I could do the math. If I spent X amount, I would get, X multiple of revenue. Like it was literally just math. And it's not that simple in crypto. And also to your point, there's just not a lot of crypto marketers that have done kind of large paid ad campaigns in the past. And so there's a kind of a talent thing. There's an awareness that there is a service and a software stack available to them that would answer all of these questions. So I don't even know if there's a question in there, but just an observation based on everything you've shared. It's just people just don't know it's even out there, that Addressable can do all of this.
I definitely agree with that. There's definitely an awareness issue. And I think people are aware of the name of Addressable, and I think a lot of them would synonymously would say it's that company that connects wallet to social profiles so you can target them using ads. But we maybe don't do ads, or this is somewhat the rejection. But I definitely agree that there's a missing narrative. It's also the company that can help us better use data to plan, or better use data to understand what is working. And if it makes sense, because we have a clear ROI, then we can plan what we're spending to know what we're getting. And to tap even deeper into the ROI, many companies in blockchains are still startups. They're still in discovery. They're very far from having a viable and scalable business model. If they know that for a user they're making $100 and they're buying them for 50, it's a great machine that you can scale. But I think that given that it's not the situation just yet, companies still need to get users. Why they need to get users, whether it's to prove that they have product market fit, to get the next funding round with the showcasing of what they're able to do, to attract users to start monetizing on some features that they have, or even to build attention. They need the users throughout every part of their life cycle. What they're often not thinking of is, what am I willing to pay for the users? And a lot of the reason for that is that for the founders in their mind, they're hiding the cost. Not knowingly we're hiring a marketer because we need marketers, or we're doing a KOL round, or we're going to add KOLs to our round as somewhat advisors and people that would speak on our behalf. So they're spending on the user acquisition without really framing that as user acquisition. But if they're falling into a model in which we're saying, this is budget and this is budget and this is budget, regardless of what's equity, what's token, or what's headcount, they're saying, what am I actually spending on driving users? They might actually find out that sometimes there's a faster, more efficient way to get users.
Yeah. And I think part of it too, at least in the crypto space, is kind of this bias for organic and or not paid. And so because there's, people draw their attention, or their attention gets drawn to kind of organic campaigns, or seemingly organic, but it's really not. And so, but a lot of founders don't know that. A lot of founders, when they see a project doing well and all these KOLs and influencers talking about it, it's probably that, a good portion or percentage of those KOLs have been paid to do so, but it's just not disclosed. And so people then get the impression that, oh, it's organic, but it's really not. And so I think that's part of the problem too, is this bias for organic, which means that, they just don't, they're not familiar with kind of paid campaigns, or that, acquisition has a cost. That's at least my observation, my experience is, and I think it's also an opportunity for our industry to kind of mature a little bit. And if projects are using influencers or KOLs, it's probably a good idea to have them, if they're not disclosing, then at least make the assumption that probably a bunch have been paid to do so. So
Absolutely, I definitely agree with that. And if you're thinking about the founders that are still buying into the illusion that everything's organic, um, if they're buying into the illusion, it means that they're not paying for influencers, or they don't necessarily understand that. And if that's the case, in the blockchain space, everything is so competitive. Like you can't even name the amounts of wallets, the amount of layer ones, layer twos, the amount of exchanges. I mean, it's the numbers are huge. There's so much solutions and yet not enough users. And if you're a founder and you want to be competitive about finding market share and finding the initial users to start, and you don't know where to find that, you're still not working with influencers, and you're not a rock star in social media, which, let's face it, I mean, not most people aren't rock stars in social media. Which channel are you turning to? How are you planning to get your first users?
yeah.
If you're not paying for that and doing that plain organic, you're just too slow. And there's no way that you will keep up with the pace of the market. So yeah, this is absolutely where we're hoping that people will see through the illusion. They will at least understand that nothing is really organic to start with. When they understand that, they can put everything on the same benchmark based on cost, maybe cost per mile, but anything. What is the cost for driving quality users to my product to test it out?
Yeah. I want to maybe ask two last questions. The first one is around mindshare. There's kind of been a lot of buzz lately with mindshare, and the different kind of narratives that are taking mindshare. You know, I think AI right now is like, 40 some percent of the mindshare out there, and what that's leading companies or projects to do. That I've kind of coined it, at least in my mind, kind of a narrative schizophrenia, where they're a project that's not necessarily in the AI space, but then they pivot to the AI space because they see that's where the attention is going. I'd love your view on that, on mindshare in general, and to what extent does Addressable, help kind of understand mindshare and its role, I guess, in marketing. Well, like, how do you see that?
I tweeted something a few months back. It's a poem that I call "The Tale of Two Funnels," which is it's somewhat of a joke, but with a lot of truth behind that. That a lot of projects are setting up marketing funnel that is presumably aimed for users, like a Web3 game that is looking for gamers, or a DeFi project that is looking for investors, when in fact there's another funnel that matters the most to them. That funnel is retail traders that would buy the token, would buy the speculation. I think the situation that we're seeing in this space, at least at the moment, is that for some of the projects, the token is more meaningful than that. So the second funnel, the hidden one, is the one that's most important. And with the speculation, narratives are always going to win, because it's not about what will people use. It's not about what's solving a real problem. It's about what would get people to think it's a moonshot. So what I'm seeing over there is there's lots of chatter in the Web3 marketing communities about, oh, why are they putting so many buzzwords on top of everything? Don't they know that users don't read it? I think they do. I think they do know that, but it's not what they care about. It's not who you're selling to. When you were asking me about the tagline and Addressable, you asked me, who's it for? What I think is that some projects care about the token and the buyers of the speculation more So they're designing it around narratives at the moment to get people to think it's a moonshot. This is where I'm thinking it's happening. The way that we're treating that within Addressable is, one, we're acknowledging that this is the state of the market. And I think crypto will always have some distribution of company between one end, which is what Chris Dixon refers to as the casino within read, write, own. It's the part of the speculation, it's the part in which people are trying to get money and moonshot, and it's not really about new tech being built. To the other end, which is ranging between new tech being built, whether it's DeFi or whether it's gaming, and all the way to plain normie businesses that treat crypto as a new form of payment. Today, the casino speculation is still, I think, very much dominating a lot of crypto. And therefore, it's why we're seeing the narrative so powerful. But I think it's changing. I think retail traders are becoming a bit more resilient to the narratives, especially when the market is down. They're realizing that a lot of them are not really fulfilling on the promise. And on the other end, regulation is making it available for more businesses to accept crypto payments. Why not? I mean, people got rich with crypto. Why not sell them luxury goods or travel or all sorts of other things with crypto as just another payment method? Or use DeFi with better UX, so people has better trading opportunities. And the way in which Addressable um, 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 approaches that on the market is, one, by acknowledging that. So we're still providing dashboard and helping you understand your audience and what are the narratives that they care about, what are they speaking about, what is the mind share, which is something that we still know a lot of companies care about. And for that, if they care about that, we care about that. We want them to succeed. But on the bigger part, what we're trying to educate on, what we're trying to imply is, there's a product here by a real company that cares about the space being able to grow, that has the infrastructure to get your real users to the product side, not to the token side, to find real users, real engagement, real adoption, and driving them all the way inside. We are seeing products in the space that care about that. We are seeing success with them. And hopefully we see much and much more of these in the future.
Awesome. Well, Asaf, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us. And if there's a listener that did not know about Addressable, but now they do, and they become a customer, that would be a huge win for me. So I hope that, all those that are listening to this and they're interested in Addressable, they go to addressable.io, sign up, learn about Addressable, and see how Addressable can serve your needs as a marketer in the crypto space. Asaf, thank you so much for taking the time to meet with us.
Thank you so much, Peter.
Awesome.